What is up? Welcome to another edition of Bombers Blitz on the College Football Mafia Network. I am your host, Nathan Bomber Brown, and with me is a good friend, somebody that we probably don't spend enough time together, but good representative for the Pac-12 and Boise State Broncos. How we doing?
Hey, it's great to be here. Thanks again for having me on. Like you said, it has been too long, and so much has happened since the last time we talked. So glad to
Yeah.
finally be able to catch up again. Now that some of those dominoes have started to fall into place when it comes to conference realignment.
Right. Yeah. Bronco Bleymaier, by the way, I didn't complete. Make sure you follow him on Twitter and tell everybody a little bit about your channel.
Yeah, so my channel, obviously, you can see here, you probably guess, Boise State fan. So big time Boise State fan. Started the channel about 6 years ago during COVID, was mostly just looking for something to do, honestly. And so said, hey, you know what? I've never done anything with YouTube before, but I'll just give it a try and have a chance to talk about college football and Boise State football. So that's the focus of the channel is a lot of Boise State football heavy discussion, but I talk about anything West Coast, anything Pac-12, and then anything generically related to conference realignment. All that gets discussed on the channel. So if you're interested in any of those topics, even if you're not a Boise State fan, there should be something there for you. Maybe not every week, but certainly on an occasional basis. Make sure you like and subscribe, but also make sure you subscribe to this channel too. It's a fantastic content. Love everything that Big 12 Mafia does.
I really appreciate you coming on and spending some time with me. Don't be afraid to go in and edit your name and put in your YouTube channel name as well, so people
That's
know
the
how to
YouTube
find you
channel
on
name, Bronco
YouTube.
Bleymaier. You can
Oh,
find me there.
it's both. It's both
Yeah,
Twitter and well, that makes it
yeah,
easy.
makes it easy.
If you don't know Bronco, he and I met. Boy, it's almost 2.5, almost 3 years ago. We originally met on Twitter, and then we did a couple of shows right in the run up to the 2023 season. And boy, that seems like a lifetime ago, Bronco. Stuff we were talking about then, some was really right, and a bunch of stuff was really wrong.
That's when it comes to conference realignment. So much of it is conjecture and speculation. You try to stay as close to the facts as you can. And that's what I really try to focus on with my channels. I know that I'm not going to be right every single time. And I know that if you start throwing predictions at the wall, some are sticking, some are not going to. So I
Right.
try to create in my content when I'm talking about Pac-12 realignment, I try to give an overview of, all right, here's all the information we have so you can join me in this process of making these determinations. And now I'll tell you how I'm interpreting it, but then I want to have those conversations with you. And so that's kind of how I try to make it look and say like, hey, these are the facts. And then I try to say, all right, now I'm at the point where it's opinion. So you know the difference between the two. And again, but yeah, conference realignment, so much has happened. At Boise State, so much has happened since that 2023 season. It does seem, especially for Boise State fans, it does seem like a lifetime ago. Completely new, different coaching staff when we talked last time.
And I should have introduced you as a Mountain West expert as well. So you wear multiple hats, all of college football, and then we're talking about the Pac-12 and the Mountain West Conference today. But first of all, I want to thank everybody for joining us. It's a Saturday afternoon. We normally do these, but it had been so long since I caught up with Bronco and everything that's going on with the Pac-12, Texas State, the new media deals, all that stuff. I didn't want to lose another day too. We're gonna in the next month. It's gonna be preseason hype. It's gonna be everybody breaking down conferences and whatnot. And so I'm just trying to sort of close the loop on all the news that has gone on. Obviously, none of the legal issues have disappeared. House hasn't really settled anything. It's kind of a misnomer, the House settlement. It really wasn't a settlement as much as it was just something else the people can try to get around, right?
It really was. And I mean, you talk about legal issues not going away. The Pac 12 still finds itself in the midst of embroiling legal battles that trend one way. It looks like Pac 12 might come out on top. Other ways, it's the Mountain West. Hey, anybody that's out there that's got a legal background, this is, if you're like a legal fan and a college football fan, this is your prime time right now because the era of NIL has changed everything so much. I'm planning on doing a video here in a couple of weeks where I really break down NIL, what it looks like right now. I'm going to have a former football player, also played in the CFL as well, former Boise State guy, come on. And we're going to talk about, hey, what does the NIL look like right now? Because it is the wild, wild west. I don't think that NIL, I don't know it's not a focus on our show, but you mentioned it. I don't think right now how NIL appears is how anybody intended it to look. And I do think
Right.
that the House settlement actually brings us maybe a little bit closer, not necessarily to how NIL was supposed to be, but maybe brings us back to a point of maybe a little bit of control. Because right now, there's nothing. There's no rules. NCAA is not doing anything. You got all these collectives wildly all over the place. And
Right.
schools have pretty much lost control of their own commits. And I think the House settlement gives that opportunity for schools to actually have a say in NIL. So is it a positive when it comes to how NIL was supposed to be? No, I don't think so. But is it a positive in the wild, uncharted anarchy that we have right now? Maybe providing a little bit of a bedrock that can be built off of. I think that it helps in that way. So pros and cons, but it's a crazy time.
Yeah, it's excellent stuff. I don't know. Do you know Sam? I want to make sure I get Sam's right name. He's one of the lawyers that is on my consigliere show. I'm sorry, I'm spacing his name. Let me make sure. He's a Boise State professor. I'd be happy to introduce you if you don't know him. Let me see if I can. I think it's Sam Ehrlich. I want to make sure I get that right. Yep, Sam C. Ehrlich, and he's currently a law professor at Boise State. If you don't know him, I'm happy to set you up and you guys can talk. He will absolutely come on and talk NIL, the House settlement, all that stuff. So if you need it, just let me know and I'll make the introduction. Otherwise, I just wanted to make sure you knew that Boise State's out there. There's a lot more people. I mean, thousands of more people that are tuning in to where Boise State's at. But Boise State by itself can't be taken just in a silo. Now we have to talk about the Mountain West Conference. Now we have to talk about the Pac-12 and how all those pieces fit together. So before we dive into Texas State and before we dive into the Pac-12 in general, what's your current overview and outlook of the Pac-12 and kind of give everybody an idea of kind of where you see for the next, let's just say the next 12 months, what that's going to look like in Boise?
Yeah, next 12 months for Pac-12, I think that we've reached a point where there's a little bit of stability now, right? Because they had to get to 8 full members. They had Gonzaga, so that was 8, or Gonzaga, sorry. Had 8 members, but Gonzaga wasn't a full member, so it was only 7 full. So they've
Right.
added Texas State right now. So there's a lot of conjecture out there about who it wants to be added next. I know that the presidents of not Boise State, but the presidents of the Pac-12 teams in general, when they had their meeting about 6 months ago, they were saying that like 9 teams is their goal. That's a place where they think that, okay, now you're playing 8 conference games, you got 4 out of
Right.
conference opportunities. 9 is a nice number. You're not too weighty. So, and the money isn't distributed too widely. So I think 9 is what they definitely want to get to, but I don't think you go for that right now. You've gotten to 8. You're stable. You can be a conference. Legally, you're not going to lose out on all of the settlement money that the Pac-12 had coming its way and all of those things. So you
Right.
have your 8 members. If there was a great candidate that you could go out and snag right now, I'd say go get him. But I just don't think there is. There's a lot of talk right now about going and getting somebody else in Texas. And for me right now, I'll say right up front, and this may upset some of the people watching, I'm not a massive fan of the Texas State addition. I don't think they're a very strong team to add. They in their entire FBS history, they have never won more than 8 games. Those both coming this last 2 seasons. They are not in a ideal market. They're stuck right there in between San Antonio and Austin. And then Austin obviously already has a major football presence with Texas, University of Texas Longhorns. So I don't think that they are a great add. I don't think they bring a lot of strength to the Pac-12. However, they're the best of what was left available on the table. And that's where we're at right now. Texas State was the best option the Pac-12 could do just to stay alive, to keep its head above the water. After them, who else do you get? I mean, Sac State, an FCS team with some potential maybe, but all completely unknown. People have talked about adding Rice, which I think would be a terrible addition to the Pac-12.
Yeah, they were advocating. They put out something this week basically saying not only do we want money, but we're trying to be more involved.
Yeah. So I think that this is a point where if there's a great team, you get them. If Texas State's addition, like I said, I'm not a big fan of them on their own, but if they bring other Texas teams with them, specifically UTSA or UNT, I think either of those would be good additions if the Pac-12 could get them and if they were interested in joining. However, right now, Pac-12, next 12 months, I think the time has come. You've gotten your conference together. You have everything you need. You stay put. You build up the new media partners that are coming in. You build up the conference presence. You build up their national hype and their national presence, and then you just push into 2026. And there's going to be other dominoes that fall. ACC looks very, very shaky. There's going to be lots of different things that end up happening across the college football landscape, and other opportunities are going to come. If Memphis says we want to come join you, sure, you add them. There's a great opportunity out there, go and you add them to the conference. But right now, I don't think there's anybody else out there that the Pac-12 should jump for. But who knows? Gold is at the helm. She's the worst conference leader out there that anybody could ask for. So who knows what she's going to do?
Yeah, you know what? There was a reason why you joined the Pac-12 at kind of a downtime. Is they have had issues. There's no other way to put it. The last 12 or 13 years at the Pac-12 completely screwed up by not only the commissioner, but all of the leaders of these schools. I mean, it's been horrendous. And I think now bringing Boise State in and Gonzaga, these are two schools that have a reputation for winning. And they didn't just join for the hell of it, right? They're trying to get into this conference to build it up, to make it bigger. And I think it's just really interesting that we are where we are because the Pac-12 made horrible decisions years ago. And so everything you just talked about, I think it is important. Gould is different. But you also have ADs. JD Wicker at San Diego State can't keep his mouth shut. And ADs in the conference just need to do silence. And I think they did a pretty good job on Texas State this year. Everybody was talking about. I was just going to say, here's a video for a breakdown. We're not going to watch it, but you did a Texas State to the Pac-12 breakdown. I know you've seen his videos before. I can't remember. I don't think it's a member video. If anybody can't get access to it, let me know. I just posted the link. After the show, when we're done, just jump into the library. In the search, put in Texas State. It's the first video to pop up, and he breaks it all down. He goes through the viewership. He goes through the DMA for all the viewership of the markets, and basically says it was the best school available. If you're going to talk about anybody that's not Memphis or Tulane, I think those two would have been champion picks if they could have stolen them.
I agree. And you talk about missteps made by the Pac-12, 13 years ago or so. It's missteps that are also being made right now. I have really three main missteps that the Pac-12 has made, and it's why Texas State was inevitable. Texas State was the best team out there. There was even talk that the Mountain West was maybe going to go try and grab them. So, thankfully we got them, and that we're not having to settle for Sacramento State or somebody else like that. So
instead of sorry, let me just ask, North Texas. Was that on your list at all?
North Texas has put a ton of money into building up their facility.
Okay.
They've put a ton of money into building up their facility. They're in a nice place where actually North Texas doesn't have to compete with quite as many big teams collegiately as Texas State does, because Texas State's right next to University of Texas. Yeah, UNT is in Dallas, right? So they're having to compete with SMU and TCU. But I mean, those are big schools and they're Power 4, but they're not doing anything on the national stage in the last few years or anything like that. So SMU had an OKC and the ACC was ACC. But my main point here is that the Pac-12 made major mistakes coming into this conference realignment that has ended up with Texas State. Texas State was the best option available. I think that in my disappointment in that we've had to go with Texas State on Twitter, I'm maybe being perceived as being completely opposed. We should have gone and got somebody else. That's not my point. My point is that the corner that Gould backed us into, Texas State was the best team that we could actually bring on. But there were so many better options that led into this, starting right off the bat with just doing a reverse merger with the Mountain West. Last time I was on this channel and we talked about that, that was the number one thing that kind of both of us were in the same pain, saying this is the best option. I know you had ideas of maybe merging with the AAC and doing something like that. And I said, that'd be really cool, but probably unrealistic. But of the realistic options, Mountain West reverse merger made the most sense. Okay. Take the Mountain West from 12 teams, split them to 14. It's not a supersized conference. It's a normal size conference. Keep the Pac-12 logo. So you take the only thing that's valuable about the Pac-12, add it to the Mountain West. You get all the Mountain West money from all of their tournament appearances. You get all the Pac-12 money from all of their war chests. It's the perfect combination of both worlds. And there was a great point made of, hey, this is an opportunity to shed weight. Like doing taking the best teams from the Mountain West and basically making a new Mountain West in the Pac-12 is an opportunity to shed the dead weight, the Wyomings and the San Jose States, the New Mexicos of the world. And I think there's a valid point to be made there. But the problem is, how much is it worth dead weight? How much are you paying for liposuction? At a certain point, the cost is not worth the end result that might be a potentially net benefit. So like the slimmer, sleeker, newer Pac-12, they have its benefits, but it has cost the Pac-12 so much that it's just not worth it. And it could have been worth it if the next step hadn't happened. This is the next thing the Pac-12 did that was a major mistake. It could have been worth it to ransack the Mountain West, take their 4 best teams, add them to Pac-12, if they had gotten Memphis and Tulane. Because if you get Memphis and Tulane, you do 2 things. One, you cripple your main competition. I know the Sun Belt's on the upcoming, but the AAC is your main competition. They're the ones that are in with ESPN. They're the ones that are being promoted. They're the ones that have all of the eyes, media biases, East Coast bias, all of that. You would have crippled them. They would have been a non-factor. You would have only been you as the Pac-12. You're the team that goes to the playoffs every single year. Nobody else have to worry about. The other thing you got to do, and I just mentioned it, you would have been able to counter the East Coast bias. So anybody who's not seen me on this channel before, or seen me on my own channel, East Coast bias is a real thing in college football. If you look at maps of population demographics, most of America lives east of the Mississippi. The population density of the East Coast is so much larger than any of the cities that the Mountain West, Pac-12, West Coast, Big 12, any of those teams have. And so the only way to counter that, because they're the teams that are getting the largest viewership, they're the teams that are getting the most media hype. The media
they have the time zones.
The better time zones for the viewership. There's so many different factors. So the TV partners are going to follow them. The media is going to follow them for polls, preseason polls, which do matter because it changes the narrative and it creates biases coming into the season. The only way to counter that is to get East Coast teams into your conference. That's the only way to counter that. And the Pac-12 messed up because they could have. They had all of this momentum. There was a positive narrative about the Pac-12. The media, everyone was excited. It's back. There was this brief moment where everybody was on the Pac-12 train. And if you were following social media that time for, UTSA or Tulane or Memphis or even USF, all of their fan bases said, get us in the Pac-12. That's where we want to be. And the Pac-12 had an opportunity to grab them if they'd given them the right offer. Pac-12, the AAC teams are facing a $25 million buyout to get out of their conference. What does the Pac-12 offer them? $2.5 million. $2.5 million. And people have said, and I've had this conversation on Twitter, they said, well, that's just negotiating. If the AAC should have countered. Negotiation only works if the other party is as interested as you are.
Well, and they have to have leverage. You have to have
leverage. If you're going to go up to somebody, knock on their door and say, hey, can I buy your house and put you out on the street? You need to be able to give them a great offer to even get the ball rolling. Giving them the $2.5 million, short selling the AAC killed the momentum. It gave the AAC time to reposition itself and get their teams back involved. It gave the Mountain West time to re-strengthen their walls when the Pac-12 came back. It killed everything of what could have been. This could have been a pseudo Power 5. This could have been.
It would have been the best of the rest.
It would have been the best
of the rest.
Best of the rest. You'd had multiple New Year's Six champions, former Power 4s. You could have made a case to be in that gray area between Group of 5 and Power 4, Group of 6 and Power. You could have been right there. And instead, what you have is a good conference. It's the best teams from the Mountain West plus the Pac-12 for sure. But it's not what it could have been. It's just a better version of the Mountain West, barely. And for the cost that you've put in, and by better, I don't mean by barely, I don't mean better than the current Mountain West. We are way better than the current Mountain West now that we've ransacked them, but better version of the previous Mountain West before conference realignment. It is terrible, and that is all Gould and the rest of the Pac-12 leadership, primarily Oregon State and Washington State's teams who were driving the bus, who were thinking in a Power 4 mindset, who thought that they were so much better, the same mindset that got the Pac-12 into this mess because they thought they were worth so much that they turned down a massive TV package and lost all their teams of the Power 4 conferences. It's that ivory tower elitism that focuses more on academics than athletics, that does not understand college football and doesn't understand the Group of 5, now Group of 6. That is the leadership that the Pac-12 has, and they are the ones that have ruined what could have been one of the greatest conferences outside of the Power 4. And now that is why when I say Texas State is a disappointment, it's not disappointment of what is available, but it's disappointment of what could have been.
Boy, I'm just going to clap. That rant was fantastic. I should have queued up a rant screen or something like that to go with that. I was hoping to get something from you like this, Bronco. And the reason that happens is we don't talk enough. We need to do this more often so that we can, get these rants out and maybe have them thinned out a little bit. I will say a couple things just as an outside observer. I don't have a dog in the hunt. I am a fan of several of the schools from the Mountain West and the Pac-12 specifically. But there's a lot to unpack there. You went through a whole bunch of stuff. So let me quickly just review, and you correct me if my memory's wrong. I'm an old guy. First thing I remember is when we talked about the reverse merger or taking the best of the AAC and the Mountain West and building it into the super brand. And if that meant you bring Wyoming along, if that meant you brought any other schools that were currently in the Mountain West on, fine. Right? Reverse merger, you're now the Pac-12. But if you remember, we never said the word, or I don't remember using the term G6. There was never G6. Now, it wasn't necessarily they were an A5 or a Power 5 conference, but we definitely talked about best of the rest. Taking, raping, and sorry, it's not a good word, pillaging other conferences and taking what is the best of them and now turning it into something that is practical. You can actually go to media partners and say, hey, look, we got all these brands that have basically been screened out of the A4. Doesn't mean they're a G5. It just means they're not the A4. You said, again, quote from you, gray area. That's exactly where that we talked about them playing. So without rehashing the merger, non-merger, and screwing up bringing schools in from the AAC and or making the best of those conferences for the most part, out of all those moving pieces, and now we are where we are today. Tell everybody kind of what you're thinking. And by the way, I after I ask this question, I'm going to do shout outs. So if you're watching right now, I will get to saying hi to everybody. But I don't want to lose this energy that I'm getting from Bronco. It's an interview where I get keyed on things, and so I want to feed off of that. So before we dive into Texas State, give us an overview now of perception. I didn't say G6, you did. So what that tells me is there is starting to be a realization they messed it up, swing and a miss, not even really a swing. I don't even know that they made a good run at bringing those schools in. But now G6 is now common parlance. People use it all the time, including me. I might have been one of the first ones because I didn't know what else to do with the conferences. You're a Boise State fan. Tell everybody what your own perception is of this conference now that you have Texas State, now that we're at least no more realignment is going to happen this summer. So anything that might happen will be in the offseason. Tell everybody kind of what your umbrella view is of the Pac-12 that you will be joining next year.
And I will say one thing real quick at the end there.
Sure.
Who knows the conference realignment? They may add more teams. I'm not saying the Pac-12 is definitely not adding teams. It's kind of one of those positions where I would advise them not to, but I'm also not on their board. So
fair.
But yes, yeah. Where does the Pac-12 sit though? Right now, where do they currently sit? I'm a realistic individual. All right, I look at the facts that are at hand and draw conclusions from those. And so I know I have my own inherent biases, obviously, and all of this sitting around me. I know that I'm a biased person. I try to counteract that. So I'm not going to sit here and tell you that the Pac-12 is a Power 5 conference because they're not. It's very, very clear and obvious that they're not. Most importantly, by the fact that they don't have an automatic bid into the playoffs. Right. And there's many things, the whole idea of Power 5, Group of 5, those were made up terms. What wasn't a made up term were two things. One, the autonomous status, the autonomous 5, which the Pac-12 technically still does have. They do still have some additional maneuvering outside of the NCAA. And I'm, again, not a lawyer. Someone else could dive more into that. But they do still have their autonomous status. But what was most important was the automatic bid into the playoffs, and they don't have that anymore. Yep. They had it for like a second and then immediately lost it when they restructured the playoffs after the first year. So as far as power status goes, the most important thing for determining power status is, do you have an automatic bid to the playoffs? And they don't. So they are part of the group of 6. They are part of the teams that are going to be maneuvering their way. Now, I will say it is true that no teams, until they restructure the playoffs, have an automatic bid into the playoffs.
It's true.
It is the top 5 conferences across the board, but that also means conference strength. And in most years, you're not going to see a case where guaranteed the Pac-12 is inside of the top 4. Boise State
Right.
did it this year with the Mountain West. There were some unique things that happened. You're probably going to see most times the group of 6 teams being in that 5th slot. So where do I see them rack and stack? Well, I certainly see them outside of the Power 4. Pac-12 is not better than the Big 12. They're not better than the ACC. They're not better than any of these other power conferences that have blue blood teams in their conferences. And
Yeah.
top to bottom, even though there may be more parity, there may be more of a divide between the very top teams and the bottom teams. So
Right.
even in that sense, they're still recruiting at a much higher rate. They're still getting much more money than the group of 6 teams, a position that the Pac-12 no longer finds itself in. I do think that while they missed the boat on having the opportunity to be the best, no questions about it, and there's no ambiguity, best group of 6 team, I do think that they are the best group of 6 conference, conference right now. But I think that it is completely debatable. So I think they had an opportunity to say nobody can even debate us on this. And now AAC and Sun Belt, both of those conferences, I think every single year are going to be in conversation of who is truly the better team, better conference. I think
Sun
that
Belt, really?
Sun
Okay.
Belt is very much on the rise. The
Okay.
last 2 years, the media narrative with the AAC being picked over the way it has by the Big 12, the media narrative, if you've been watching, has actually been shifting to the Sun Belt versus Mountain West. They're
Interesting.
getting a lot more of that hype, a lot more of that attention. The thing that built the American Athletic Conference was not their team's performance. The thing that built the American Athletic Conference was incredible marketing. They
Right.
had the best propaganda department of any
I
conference
agree.
out there.
Yep.
And the media bought onto that, and the media built that conference. Specifically,
Yep.
ESPN built that conference, gave them undeserved, super high preseason rankings. And when those teams lost to other teams, instead of saying, "Oh, we made a mistake," they went, "Oh, that other team in your conference is actually really good," and gave them that spot. And the Mountain West never got that bias towards it. So it never had an opportunity, never had that preseason opportunity to get itself into the media eye and then win against those teams later on and build itself up. And so the Mountain West and the AAC have been right head to head, with most years the Mountain West being the better conference. But if you ask anybody outside of the West Coast, they're going to tell you American Athletic Conference is the better conference. So the Sun Belt's now getting that hype, and the Sun Belt has some really good up and coming teams too. They have some good kind of group of 5 blue bloods and like App State, Marshall, teams like that. But they also have some up and comers like Georgia Southern is going to be a really good team here in the next few years. What their program is doing, University of Louisiana Lafayette is a fantastic program as well. And I got who else did I write down here? Coastal Carolina is a program that you should also always keep an eye on.
Right. Yeah. I've always tagged them to move up to the AAC. So,
Yeah.
or I mean, sorry, to the ACC when it does its next sort of reshuffling. Sorry, keep going.
Yeah, so absolutely. So I would put the Pac-12 as the best conference, but not by much. And
Right.
definitely without the East Coast bias to help them out. I think the American Athletic Conference and Sun Belt may some years be viewed as right at equal or even potentially stronger. There is going to be a massive chasm between those 3 conferences and the Mountain West, Conference USA, and MAC. And I don't necessarily list those in any particular order. I think they're all absolutely trash now. And they're both right at the same level of just non-players. The only thing keeping the Mountain West afloat is potentially UNLV, and we'll see how long that lasts with the kind of competition they're playing. It's like, look at Liberty, right? Liberty doing all these incredible things, media eye on them, doing really good in recruiting before joining Conference USA, and now that they're in Conference USA and playing nobodies, basically playing an FCS schedule, and nobody cares about them.
Yeah.
Now you saw the losses that they took, and they're not getting the same caliber of recruits coming in, Malik Willis type guys. So I think the same thing may end up happening to UNLV. There's something to be said for being the biggest fish in a small pond, but if that small pond is a puddle in the middle of the desert and nobody's looking at you, it doesn't matter. So, that's where I would see the conferences rack and stack right now, but definitely not a Power 4 or Power 5.
I think it's really, well, Power 4. You had it right the first time. Boy, that breakdown is fantastic, and we're a half hour into this show, and I went like that. So, really quick, before we do anything else, let's do some shout outs. First of all, MBM, who has become one of our strongest members of the College Football Mafia family, a $20 super chat, also is a member. I've still got faith that Boise State will be in an A4 conference sooner rather than later. Boise State is a great place. The airport is 10 minutes from campus. All those things are true, and their fans are Big 12 people. Also true. They'd fit in the Big 12 seamlessly. Yeah, I could easily see that, especially if more realignment shuffling happens. I could absolutely see the Big 12 picking them up.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. I went on Kuz's Corner very
Right.
early on in my channels. He started his channel like a year after mine, so we were kind of collaborating a little bit together.
Right.
And we did a whole video talking about like why is Boise State a good fit for the Big 12. This is still when that was a potential. Then realignment the Big 12 was still happening before they went and took the AAC teams. Yeah, I agree. Absolutely agree. I think you've seen Boise State have some great matchups against Big 12 teams. I see the Oklahoma State Sooner.
That's right.
Yeah,
Yep.
right here. So I see the logo. Not Sooner, sorry, Cowboys. I am
Cowboys,
so sorry. I really apologize. I lived in Oklahoma. My cousin was a punter for Oklahoma State. I know how
Freudian
offensive.
slip.
I know how offensive that is. I apologize. Oklahoma State Cowboys. We've had some great games versus them recently on the Blue, where we definitely won. If you go back, the referees gave them that game, but we won anyhow. Great games versus Oklahoma. Obviously, TCU and Boise State is an actual rivalry. We hate them passionately. I teach my kids to say, "Who's the best football team?" Boise State. Who's the yucky team? TCU. They
Wow,
do ask
really?
them that. They do that.
Okay.
I hate
It's not
TCU.
BYU.
BYU, yeah, BYU is also a rivalry there. Absolutely.
I wish
when I
it
was a
was
kid,
more, frankly.
when I was a kid growing up, when your emotions are getting attached to the team, it was Boise State, TCU as well. So there's some great rivalries in there. I think Boise State, you're right. They are great. They would be great ad. Is it going to happen? I mean, right now with how things are going, I seriously doubt it. I don't think the Big 12 is looking to add a bunch of teams. The only way I think the Boise State would end up in the Big 12 is if there was some kind of split where you actually had a true divide where a bunch of teams left the NCAA and created their own system, and maybe in that world there'd be some place for Boise State to join some kind of like West Coast division of that, maybe under the term Big 12. But yeah, that ship sailed for now. We're focused on making the Pac-12 the best we can.
Yeah, if we go by my super or supra league idea, where you take football, separate it from everything else, and now you're just the best football brands. I have Boise State in my certainly top 60, if not top 50, and we don't know where that number, that line may be. So I would just look, and I've said this forever, and Ute has said this stuff forever. Boise State, everybody, if you're not familiar with their game, especially maybe you're a Texas State fan and you only seen them on TV running wacky plays during bowl games. Boise State, the last 25 years, has been maybe more invested than almost any school in being competitive in big time football. They'll play anywhere. They kind of took the BYU model from the 70s and 80s. Travel, they'll go anywhere and play. And it's an amazing place to go and play a game. I hate the blue turf. Blue is ugly on a field, but Boise State makes it work. I know. MBM, I really appreciate the super chat. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for your loyalty and being a member. I appreciate that. Let's buzz through a few of these shout outs before we get back to, we're going to break down Texas State next. Rock and Rant, contributor extraordinaire, moderator, and somebody who's a member of the College Football Mafia family, saying it's kickoff. I love that. Lee65, good to see you, Lee. It's been a minute. Thank you so much for being here tonight. Valuable member, longtime member of the College Football Mafia family. Hey, Bomber, great to see y'all. Great to see you too. Really quick, I don't want to dive into this, but Dickey, the AD at Boise State, one of the smartest guys out there. If you don't know his game, look him up. Follow Bronco, and he's got all kinds of information about him. But he knows what he's doing. In fact, he would be a better commissioner than Gould is. You imagine him taking that job? That would be.
I would
amazing.
Hate it because he wouldn't be at Boise State anymore. But yeah,
I
would
know.
be great at anything like that.
Absolutely true. Oh, by the way, I forgot to say this. Make sure you're following us on Twitter, subscribe on YouTube. Here's the YouTube link for just our show tonight. If you're on X, click on that. It'll take you to our YouTube page. Just put in College Football Mafia. It'll pop up on YouTube, and become a subscriber. Become a subscriber of Bronco's channel. And I guess it's just under his name, Bronco Bleymaier. Make sure you spell his name right. And his YouTube channel, which is fantastic, by the way. You should also take a second and tune in on that. Stephen Vitt, Boise State, setting the standard for the G6 CFP. You're going to get a lot of Boise State fans here tonight, I think. Surf City Bill, good to see you, Surf City Bill. Bronco, hey, look, who's here? Bronco Bleymaier. Is that a Boise State B?
Yeah. He is he's a fantastic. Yeah, he is involved in so many of the Boise State YouTube channels. He just comments on all of them, and he's been a loyal follower of my channel from pretty much the very, very beginning. I mean, I think pretty much right at 2020. So yeah, I love Surf City Bill. Always has great insight, great comments. He doesn't have like a channel or anything, but if you ever see him in the comments section, he's usually got great stuff to say.
That's awesome. Thanks for being here tonight. Make sure today, I guess, make sure you subscribe to the channel and follow both of us on Twitter and whatnot. Joe Swaim, good to see you, Joe. Whatever weakens the Mountain West is best. How do you feel about this idea that you could put the kill shot if you really wanted to? I don't think it's going to happen because UNLV wants their buyout money, but put a kill shot, take UNLV, and basically relegate the Mountain West to history.
Yeah, if you could do that. And I don't even think it's a money factor right now. If anybody follows, let me make sure I get his channel right here. But if anybody follows Jason Kelly on the Let's Run podcast, he's a UNLV guy. Awesome channel.
Oh, sure. I mean, yeah, I was on his show. He's fun.
Really great stuff.
Yeah.
He's going through law school right now, so he's got like that perspective, the part that I lack, that legal background. Outstanding stuff. If you watch his stuff, what he'll say is the main problem with UNLV, one, they're broke in a lot of ways.
Definitely they are.
So that's one. The other issue with the UNLV is they are massively delusional. They think that they're going to the Big 12. They think their former, I think it was athletic director, something like that. He told them this is what we're positioning ourselves. We're going to the Big 12. They are completely out to lunch that they think that the Big 12 is one phone call away, and that being in the Mountain West is the best route to get to the Pac-12. Not the Pac-12, sorry, to the Big 12.
A certain creator out of Salt Lake that is all bluster and no real news. So keep going.
I know exactly what you're talking about.
I don't want to call anybody out by name. I try not to do that generally.
That's fair. But no, that's the main problem with UNLV. The boosters, and it's really their boosters driving this. They think that they are the next lineup for the Big 12, and the truth is they just aren't. They don't have the draw. They don't have the viewership. They have Vegas, but as we've talked about on this channel, and I've talked about on my videos, I did a whole video. You can look it up on my channel. It's called Teams You Don't Want in Conference Realignment. And I lay out this entire false narrative that has driven so much of conference realignment that it's all about your media market. That's what matters most. And I talk about how that is a completely false perspective in the modern digital age. So many people are cutting cable. In the next 10, 15 years, you may not even have normal television markets that are in any way tied to the region that you live in. It's all going to be, Hulu TV and YouTube TV and whatever streaming service. It's all, streaming services are actually trying to get into college football right now. There was talk that Apple was trying to be involved in the Pac-12 media deal at one point. So
what's interesting? I don't know if you knew this, but Paramount Plus broadcasts on Amazon Prime.
Yes. So Pac-12 is going to be through CBS, who is also CBS owns Paramount Plus. Their games are going to be on there as well. So that is where college football is going, and it doesn't have anything to do with the number of homes that are closest to your stadium. What matters most is your national draw. What matters most is how many homes, period, you can get into. And the things that drive that, and I'm not going to break it all down because it'll be like another hour discussion, but the things that drive that primarily are, one, brand recognition, style of play, So brand recognition number one, style of play number two, and then unique factors. So brand recognition is driven greatly by winning success, how much you're in the media spotlight, stuff that Boise State has, stuff that UNLV does not have. So style of play is the number one. Style of play is number two. Style of play being how exciting are you to watch, and then unique factors like Boise State's got the blue turf. Hey, some people call it a gimmick, but you're talking about it, right? It gets the eyes on Boise State. And the biggest thing, honestly, and it's part of the reason that I talked about not wanting teams like Rice to join the conference. The biggest thing that actually hurts programs that are in these larger footprints that may appear more appealing for conference realignment is actually the other teams in their footprint that have those draw values that they don't. A team like Rice is not going to draw in the Austin market because they already have University of Texas. They're not going to flip fans. People aren't going to come watch their game when they're already tailgating to watch a UT game. They're not going to care about them. And the problem that UNLV has, they may not have any collegiate fit teams that they have to worry about, but Vegas is not a market that's friendly to college football.
No, it's
Vegas
is a pro market.
It's a pro market, and it's an entertainment market. People aren't moving there with their young kids and their families and raising high schoolers that are all I've ever want to do is play at UNLV. It's not a family. You have to have a passionate core fan base, and nobody in Vegas cares about UNLV. They can't fill their professional stadium. Nobody goes and watches their games. They don't have the viewership because nobody in Vegas is going to care about them more than they care about the Raiders or about any of the entertainment options there. Nobody in Vegas, most of the people living in Vegas didn't grow up in Vegas. They've moved there, and they're bringing with them all their
needed Boise State.
Yes.
Boise State does not need UNLV.
Exactly. So UNLV is not a team that is going to be a draw for the Big 12.
Which sucks because I think they'd be good in the Pac-12. That's my opinion.
I think they'd be great in the Pac-12, but they're not. They are so sold in to this idea that the Big 12 is a potential option for them that they're not willing to come over. So anything you can do at this point to degrade the Mountain West, to degrade the AAC, to cut down the competition is great. The media deal taking CBS from the Mountain West is actually a great start because that leaves them up the creek without a paddle. So anything you can do, I'm definitely in favor of as far as promoting the Pac-12 also means trying to reduce the competition. But UNLV at this point, it's just too much delusion in Vegas to actually come this way.
Very fair. A few more shout outs. I'm sorry, guys. I hope everybody can see the comments just sort of streaming. One, I don't have anybody else marking them, and I am listening to Bronco. But two, shout outs is about where we're at. If you want your comment to be read tonight, I think we have enough content between me and Bronco. So make it a super chat, and I'll make sure to read it, okay? Just so everybody knows, Truth Social, everybody knows that's how things work around here. Bob Swanger, good to see you. Penn State Nittany Lion in here to talk Pac-12 and Mountain West. That can't hurt you, Bronco.
Hey, you know what? Your Nittany Lions did a great game. That was fun. It was fun interacting with all the Penn State fans there. No hate or anything. I enjoyed that experience.
And I think they would say the same thing about Boise State. I don't know many people that don't enjoy the Boise State experience. I think that's another one of those things they've done, reinforced in the last 25 years. It was amazing how much has been changed in less than 3 decades. Jackson Johnson, another moderator around here, contributor. Appreciate seeing you, Jackson. What's up, College Football Mafia Nation? He always comes on and has a fun thing to say. Timothy Nolan, welcome to the show. Make sure you subscribe. Follow both of us on Twitter and subscribe on YouTube. Guys, get real about Memphis and Tulane are focused on getting into the Big 12 of the ACC. Well, Timothy, who isn't? If you're in the G6, of course that's where your focus is. I'm not being sarcastic. I'm just saying you're stating an obvious. They both think they're shoo-in for either of those conferences. A loss by Big 12 or the ACC is what I'm thinking he's going to say. Memphis and Tulane, I think they need to be in the preeminent G6 conference or G5, whatever it ends up being, once there's more consolidation. 2024 team G6 champion, in other words, best of the rest. I could see that by 2030, 31. Any thoughts on that?
Yeah, 2031, I was going to say it's a super long way away, but at this point, it's only 6 years, isn't it? I mean, goodness gracious, time's flying by. But Best of the rest type of situation, I think, is if there becomes I think that happens if you see a split in college football. If the SEC and Big Ten do what they whine and threaten about pretty much every time, say we go do our own thing. I think that's a situation where those teams jump potentially, and then the media, which drives all of this, says, okay, now we have basically two divisions of Division One, like we do with FBS and FCS, but it's even more than that now.
Right.
We are not interested in paying for all of these conferences that no longer have the same shoe into the
Right.
bigger system.
Right.
Figure it out amongst yourselves. We'll pay for the best, kind of situation, which is a little bit of what is happening with the Mountain West and Pac-12 right now, because the best teams for the Mountain West have gone and joined the Pac-12, and now again CBS has come and said, all right, we're
Right.
not really interested in Mountain West anymore. We're just going to pay for the Pac-12. I do want to address this idea that they were a shoo-in for the ACC. There is
Sure.
so much murkiness there right now. I think that they probably would be looked at as the top schools. I think ACC actually might look at USF before they look
USF,
at Tulane
UConn, and
or
those two schools, I think.
potentially, yeah, especially if basketball comes with UConn, right? So
Yeah.
I don't know if Memphis and Tulane are in as strong a situation. I don't think it's the same level of delusion as the UNLV crowd side of
I
things.
didn't say that.
Yeah, I don't think it's the
Everybody,
same.
don't yell at
But
me.
but I think there's definitely a case. But in order for that to happen, the ACC has to fall apart
Yeah.
for them to even be added. The ACC is not looking to just go and add programs right now. They're only looking to add them if they lose, Florida State and Clemson due to all the legal challenges. And honestly, the way that those are going right now, and I know there hasn't been a ton of media about it, but the way that those are going right, at least from what I can tell, it doesn't seem like it's necessarily going to be completely in favor of Florida State and Clemson and those teams. It's looking like it may actually in some ways favor the ACC, and I don't think it's going to necessarily be a complete split like we saw before. So the only way that the ACC looks to add Tulane and Memphis is if they lose upwards of 6 programs, because they added Cal, they added SMU, they added these programs at Stanford to make sure that they had, and I talked about this with Clemson Football Live. Great dude.
Okay.
Awesome stuff. He does great content. I talked about this on my channel with him. They added those programs so that they could healthily lose up
That's right.
to 4 teams. Florida State, Clemson, Miami, North Carolina. I think those were like the big 4 that were being talked about. Could healthily lose those 4 teams and still be safe as a conference that's alive and a conference that meets their TV requirements as far as number of teams in the conference, and also is strong enough to continue to compete in the Power 4. So even if they lose those 4 teams, I don't think they go in and just grab a Memphis and Tulane and say we're going to split the money. I don't think those programs, in the eyes of the ACC, add enough value to be worth bringing in. I think for the Pac-12 they definitely do, but I don't think in the eyes of the ACC they don't see those teams as like pseudo Power 4s or something like that.
Right. They're more aspiring.
It would be a little bit like how we view Texas State, or at least how I view Texas State joining the Pac-12. It'd be like best of the options available, but we're not dying to get those teams into our conference. And then ACC is very much ivory tower elitism, and Memphis, Tulane, well, being stronger athletic academic programs than Boise State, most teams are.
Right.
They're not, they're not Stanford. They're not, they're not Stanford, and they're not Cal. They're not, these, basically Ivy League level teams that the ACC likes to associate itself with. USF is closer on that than those teams. So, no, I don't think that those teams are a shoo-in. I think that a lot would have to happen, and the conference you'd be joining in the ACC, I don't know if it would even be worth joining. It might be better just to go to the Pac-12. I guess that would be my response.
Yeah, and we'll have to see how consolidation continues to break out, what it looks like it's a pyramid, everybody. If you didn't know before, college football is a pyramid, and the elite is the elite, and it's at the very top for obvious reasons. And there's schools or conferences below that if you don't meet the minimum, and I don't know what the minimum is going to look like. Maybe it'll be minimum number of NIL or facilities or some test that is going to say you don't meet these standards and you haven't tried, you're going to be in this other subdivision. And I think Super League, whatever you want to call it, I think something like that is coming closer than people think in the next 5-6 years. Let's see here. I got the Keith Moore. Memphis and Tulane are future ACC members, and they have been made aware of that. Okay. Well, that's great. I appreciate it. Thanks for being here, Keith Moore. Make sure you subscribe and follow us both on Twitter. Let's see
He's
here.
probably not going to follow me after what I just said about them, but
You know what? This is what I would say about that. In my opinion, people should be following people that you agree with, but it's even more important with people that disagree, because then you know what the world's saying about you. So it's
Sure.
not always the worst thing to disagree. You and I have disagreed in the past, right? That's kind of what we do here. I don't generally get along with people who just agree with me all the time. So that doesn't normally happen. Let's see. We'll do a few more shout outs. Go Black 45 with one of the best names in all of college or all of social media. Let the JV6 have their own playoffs. What do you think about that?
No, the instant that you do that, you are admitting that you're no longer part of the highest system, that you're no longer part of the general world of college football. Nobody watches the FCS. Nobody cares about the FCS. And by nobody, I'm obviously making an exaggeration. There are some people, but they're not a draw on the national field. The instant that you do that, you lose all relevance, and it destroys the group of six. Teams, schools shutter their football programs. It would mean the end of college football as we know it. I am not completely opposed to something, to the idea that's been proposed, and I don't know if it was you that put this out there. I see a lot of people put things out on social media.
Sure.
But there's an idea that's been floated in the playoff system recreation that's being put out right now. So they're in talks about making it a new thing. Having the top 5 programs get in, right? So the top group of 6 team gets in within that top 5, obviously. But then there's also another bracket where the next 2 best conferences play, the best group of 6 conference teams play each other, and the winner of that also gets a
Josh
position
Pate
in.
may have done that.
I'm not sure who said it. It just stuck with me. I should have bookmarked it and I didn't. But that I would not be opposed to. If it's a play-in system into the playoffs where you're not completely shut out, I would be okay with. I wouldn't like it if the group of 6 didn't have an automatic rep in there, regardless of what happened with the playoffs, because I think at that point, that team that has to add so many more hits on their calendar, so many more games, they're going to come in beat up into the playoffs already, and then they're not going to make it all the way. So, but if there's another route for group of 16s to get there other than just basically one as it stands right now, I'd be in favor of that.
I like the play-in. I like promotion relegation. I think there's a bunch of good creative ideas that you could do without completely losing the thread of all of college football, and yet you give opportunity for people. Playing games aren't the worst thing in the world. Clint Moses, you know who Clint Moses is, representing the great state of Oregon State Beavers. If you're not P2, you're G6. Boise State was ranked higher than the Big 12 champ. Well, that's a fact. You can't argue that. Clint, you and I are going to have to disagree on that, but I think you know that. But I appreciate your comment. Thanks for being here this afternoon. Moth Prof 02, who happens to be a Texas State Bobcat. Bobcats aren't scared of the pack. Bring it. Don't you love that? Don't you love the challenges and the fact that they're talking big? They want to come in and compete.
I mean, if I was a Pac-12, if I was a Texas State fan right now, I would be ecstatic. This is a massive move up. I talk about Sun Belt being a player at least in the media sense, as far as the perception goes, of potentially being on the same level as Pac-12 in some years. That may be true, but it's also going to be a case of they'll be fighting their way up there, whereas the Pac-12 and the AAC are going to have a little bit more of that friendlier perception coming in. You're also now not having to travel all the way to the East Coast for so many of your games. The travel just got so much easier, which is a huge selling point, I think, for a lot of recruits as well. And you're joining a team that's a conference that has that heritage with the Pac-12 logo. I am super, regardless of what I think about the Pac-12, I am super excited for Boise State to wear the Pac-12 logo on their chest. That in its own sense is going to be cool.
It is going to be cool.
And then, of course, you're joining the Sun Belt is okay, decent in basketball. The Pac-12 is going to be one of the best basketball conferences in the entire country. I'm not even talking group of 6. They're going to be one of the very best basketball conferences in the entire country. And now Texas State, they have a terrible basketball program, but they get to be part of that too. So, there's a lot of great things for Texas State right now. That attitude, I ain't scared of the Pac-12, bring it. I mean, good luck. I don't think New Mexico is scared of the Mountain West, and that's kind of where Texas State's going to find themselves most years, at the bottom of the end. But hey, bring that energy. Love it.
I do love it too, and I think if they were coming in, for one thing, I don't think they would be coming in if they didn't have that attitude. In my opinion, the attitude almost came before the invitation, right? They're out there selling themselves. They're trying to get the recruits they can. They're opting in and spending money in NIL. And look, at the end of the day, they are going to copy the Boise State path. It's exactly what anybody should do that is aspiring to play. And I'm going to say the A4. I'll stick with that. Anybody who wants to play in that upper division, if you want to call it, absolutely has to follow the Boise State plan. It's proven. It took, I don't say 25 years. I'd say it was probably 15 years for really the public consciousness to absorb and take ownership for Boise State. But the last 10 have been fantastic. And I think that's just something that everybody should be doing. So, Moth Prof, it's good to see you here. Make sure you follow Bronco and stay in contact. I love the fact you guys are engaging. Makes me so happy. Hiking Pacific Northwest, Navigate was hired by Memphis and Tulane to look at realignment options in early 2024. Pac-12 also hired Navigate potential targets. Wonder if Navigate overemphasized the interest in the move.
Yeah, I'll say that's new information to me. Potentially, Gold. It says there's some other comments you may get to down here later on saying that Gold is a bad commish. That's a unique opinion.
Right.
That I don't think it is a unique opinion. Gold made some massive errors and not crippling your main opponent. I mean, when you're talking battlefield strategy, when you have an opportunity to take out your opponent before the war has even begun, and you don't take that opportunity, I mean, that is a massive blunder at strategic levels. I mean, that is the blunder at the highest level. So no matter what Gold has done in other areas, and I don't think she's done great things, but no matter what she's done in other areas that you may think highly of her, you have got to admit that that was a massive error, and it stains her entire tenure. Now, is this a reason? Was she being fed in bad information? Possibly. Like I said, she and the rest of the Pac-12 leadership has no idea how the group of six, how it works outside of the Power Five, and how it works specifically when it comes to this conference realignment structure, when it comes to East Coast, West Coast bias. They just do not understand that. Power Five works on a very different level. Group of Five has worked on a very different level. They're fighting on a completely different field. It's not even across the board. It's not just about all conferences having an equal shot. It's not. It is all about perception. It's got nothing to do with facts. It's got everything to do with perception and specifically media bias in your favor. And so maybe she didn't understand that, and somebody told her this, and that was a reason. It doesn't excuse her, but maybe it's a reason.
Maybe it was the Utah professor who said the Pac-12 was worth $50 million. Spit check. You almost did, didn't you? I almost caught you. Great to see you. Rob Ellen. Rob Ellen is a Clemson Tiger. So there you go. A valuable member of the College Football Mafia family. Great to see you, Rob. I'm looking forward to the future where there's an app that will get me access to every televised Clemson sporting event. There you go. I mean, you would have to not buy, but maybe relicense your own media access or contract, because right now the reason you can't do that, BYU tried for 12 years, is because you don't own those rights. You sublet, and I'm sure you probably know that, Rob. You sublet them to the ACC, and ESPN. But we may get there. We might get to a point where maybe it's on demand. I would say you could maybe work it out where it's on demand and you turn around and pay a major kickback to whoever the primary broadcaster is. I could see that too. Let's see here. John, go. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, potentially for sure. I think that it would have to be in some kind of digital app form, because I think the Longhorn Network has killed any appetite in the media sphere for anything like that. They butchered it. It was really poorly run. I would hate for it to be something like what we saw with the Pac-12 network.
Yes.
because that was so hard to watch. Not like the quality of production was okay, but like as far as accessing it, how it was run, it was so hard to watch. It basically locked off the Pac-12 from a huge segment of the American population. And it's a big part of the reason that that conference declined so much over the last 15, 20 years. It kind of went from that. I mean, Pac-12 at one point was basically the SEC of college football, and they went from being the greatest conference in college football to being completely destroyed. And I think a big part of that was the Pac-12 network and what they did to it.
Not getting access to DirecTV and Xfinity, and John Boxleitner says Boise would be a massive benefactor of relegation promotion. I would agree with that. Massively successful and innovative. Boise State, I'll say it out loud, Wake Forest, Boise State. So if we're just talking about football, we're not talking about basketball or even reorganizing the conferences at all. We're just talking about a Division 1A, where it's the separation of everybody, just the programs that are going to want to put in the time to compete. I absolutely could see that happen. Sorry to complete his sentence. Sorry, but
and I love that you brought that up because
ignoring merit on its own peril. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, I love that you brought that up because about 5 years ago, very early on in my channel's history, unfortunately, I did it so early on when I had very few subscribers, so not that many people saw the video. But very, very early on, I actually proposed that idea of having a relegation system similar to the Premier League, where you basically divide college football up into 4 regions. So you restore regionality to college football, East Coast, West Coast, kind of like a Big 12 area in that Southwest, and then kind of like the MAC Big 10 area in the North Midwest. And basically to have exactly that, you just align all of the Power 5 conferences at the time with the Group of 5 conferences. You split some obviously to create, 4 and 4. And then every year the bottom 2 or bottom 1 team from the Power Conference gets relegated to the groups of 5 system, and the group of 4 at that point, and the top 1 or 2 teams from each section of the group of 4 system gets elevated up into the Power 4, and it would put everybody at an equal level. It would create so much more incentive because seasons would still be meaningful. I mean, if you're Maryland, like you just mentioned, going through your season and you're like 4 and 6 and nobody's paying attention to you, but it's the difference between you winning one more game and avoiding relegation, or losing and then you do that's a media story. People watching that game to see whether or not you're gonna be relegated. That's huge, and it's why the Premier League is so successful across all scales. Everybody watches all those games. So I think that would have been a great idea. I have a whole video on it. You can find it on my channel. Doesn't have a lot of views, maybe like 600 to 700 or something like that, but I definitely proposed that. And actually, the former Mountain West Commissioner, Craig Thompson, I had a connection to him, not directly to him, but indirectly. And somebody I pitched that idea to loved it and actually sent it to him. It never came about to anything, but Craig Thompson at least saw it.
Yeah, that's cool. In 2021, the year BYU was added to the Big 12, I went on 365 Sports and not only talked to, I think it was Smokey, and I said, this is it. This would fix everything. And it was promotion relegation. So anyway, let's see here. Surf City Bill says that app would only be $400 for Rob Ellen. So there you go, Rob Ellen, $400. You're getting a shout out from Bob Swanger saying right back at you. So you earned some respect this bowl season. It was good for Boise State the entire season. In fact, it was so good that your AD now, or was it your president, saying there's a Boise rule? They're going to do whatever they can to keep Boise State out of that top 4. What do you think about that?
Yeah, that was definitely our athletic director saying that. Love Jeremiah Dickey. Love how he speaks truth to power. And that's the great thing about Jeremiah Dickey. It is actually, and I'm sure you've experienced this, it is really rare in the collegiate world, at the media level and at the actual athletic world, to find true, genuine people. So many people are just out for them. They'll say whatever they need to say for you to do whatever, to like and subscribe, or to support their program, give them money, whatever it is. Jeremiah Dickey's not like that at all. He is exactly what you see. He is a genuine 100%. He's a God-fearing person. He is exactly who he presents to be. So when he called them out for that, I absolutely loved it. I will say, I think it's a good thing, actually, that they got rid of that, because I do not think that the bye week was an advantage at all. I think
Yeah,
it's
bye
actually
week
the
was.
main reason that Boise State lost to Penn State was the rust factor. Those first 2 drives,
Had a
I
lot to
mean,
do with it.
it determined the
Yeah,
whole game. I mean, Penn State
yeah.
scored the first 2 drives, and after that, Boise State woke up and it was a completely different game. But it's not an advantage. So hey, the top 4, probably Power 4 that are going to be in those games, you have at it.
Yeah.
You are welcome to that bye,
I
because it
don't
is
want the
not an advantage.
bye. In fact, I think we should go to 16 straight seeding, and all home games are the first round. So that would fix all that. But nobody listens to me anyway. Um, Doc Scurv, I think you're new to the channel. Make sure you subscribe and follow us both on Twitter. And I forgot to say, turn on your notifications. I don't know if you know how to do that, but hit the little bell icon below the video while you're watching right now, and that will make you subscribe to this channel, and then go over to Bronco's channel and do it on his YouTube channel as well. And we're an hour in, so I might as well do this too. Let's reset the table. We're now going to talk about Texas State. This is going to be the last comment I bring up about this. We're going to just focus on Texas State. So if you're a Texas State fan, now's the time to put your questions in. I will try to get to them. Like I said, I don't have any moderator help today, but and if you're somebody else that wants to get a question out that I might not grab, make it a super chat, and we'll go from there. Okay. Doc Scurv, and unfortunately, I don't know if this did this on your channel, but all our people's aliases have been stripped off their logins for YouTube. Is that happening on your channel?
No, I can see everybody still.
Yeah, there's something. So what do you see from Doc Scurv's name right there? What do you see?
Oh, like the picture associated with it?
No, just down below me, when in the
Oh,
comment window, does it say Doc Scurv or something else?
oh no, it just says Dark Scurv. I may have
Okay,
misinterpreted what you're
yeah.
saying. My bad.
The YouTube has been showing people's aliases, which is what I've
Ah.
memorized. Now, half these people I'm probably saying, welcome to the channel. Like, Bomber, I've been here 2 years. Anyway, St. Mary's for basketball and baseball. I think St. Mary's for all sports would be great. What do you think?
Yeah, I absolutely agree. St. Mary's has been rumored as a team that's actually being looked at and approached. So being added as a basketball team would just, I mean, the Pac-12 again they may be, in the mix of where it is at football wise, having other conferences they're competing with, but they are cornering the market on the best West Coast basketball programs that you can find out there. I think St. Mary's would be a great ad. Apologize for the aliases thing. I don't do a ton of live videos on my channel.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, you more
Yeah,
recorded.
I've had 2 or 3 that I've done, and so didn't know that was a thing. But that's good to know.
Well, it's broken. It needs to be fixed because I'm not smart enough to learn everybody's names differently. All right. We're going to go right now. We're going to jump into it. Top of the hour. I apologize. I'm not a bait and switch guy. I don't normally in the title put something that I'm not going to get to later in the show. Never happens. So today it was not my fault. Blame this guy because he is loaded for bear today and he came in all energetic. So I kind of lost a little of the Texas State energy, but we're going to circle back and we're going to talk about it right now. So let's focus just on Texas State. And I know you've already given your opinion on kind of what you were thinking and what you would have liked to see for the Pac-12. Give me 5 reasons why Texas State is the best fit right now.
5 reasons why they're the
5
best fit right
reasons,
now.
not
Okay.
just one. I'm going to make
All
you
right.
work for it.
5 reasons why they are the best fit for the Pac-12 right now. Well, they're the best fit for the Pac-12 because there is nobody out there that's a better option. So that's number 1 right off the bat. They are the best fit because they're needed. This is it's a situation where Texas State was not the first go-to team. It wasn't a team that everybody was rallying to get into the conference. It was, okay, UNLV doesn't want to join. We asked Air Force, and even they said no. The ACC or the AAC has closed their doors. Where do we go from here? They are not an FCS team. That's probably starting off the bat. They're not FCS, so they're a good option for that. There are actually some benefits to Texas State joining, though, besides just being an absolute needed program. They are a team that has like I said, they aren't in Texas, right? A big recruiting state.
Yep.
So I don't think that the Pac-12 needs Texas State to get into Texas. Texas is already somewhat of a pipeline for Boise State. Ashton Genty came from Texas. So did Jean-Bray Dubar. So we have a ton of guys. I interview recruits all the time on my channel that have come from Texas. So teams like Boise State may not need Texas State to get into Texas, but other programs may. And playing games in Texas gives you more opportunities. So, hey, we're going down for a recruiting visit. You want to come and watch Boise State play. And it's also a game that, let's be honest, most teams in the new Pac-12, at least the top 6 teams in the Pac-12, are probably going to win that game down in Texas State. So it's an opportunity. Hey, we're going to come. You get to see. You don't have to leave your hometown. It's a 4-hour drive. And Texas is a massive state, so it's still going to be a long drive. But 4 or 5 hour drive, day trip. You come watch the team that you're thinking about joining, Boise State or Oregon State or San Diego State, whatever it is. We'll treat you like kings while we're in your hometown, and then we'll come. So there is that opportunity, right? So they're not FCS, and they are a team that does give you access to Texas. The third reason that they're a good potential add here is that they're regional. You're not adding a team like you didn't go out and grab UConn for football, who probably as far as football goes is about the same. But you know what? If you're going to have to travel for a football program that's not very good, at least you don't have to spend an arm and a leg to get there to go and do it. So they are in your same footprint. All right. So that's the fourth reason I think I'm on now. And the fifth and final reason that Texas State is a good add for the Pac-12 is about who they may attract now or later on. I was trying to say it earlier, and I don't know if I got to it, but the great thing about adding Texas State, and the thing that may just change it from being it's best for the rest to something I'm actually genuinely excited about, is if they become a travel partner and a way to draw somebody else who is more attractive, specifically UTSA. I would love to get UTSA on. I know there's already somewhat of a rivalry between those two schools. I think that UTSA has shown that they have the commitment to their program. They've had the success. They didn't have a great year last year, but they had success in CUSA in their first year in the American Athletic Conference. They continued that level of success. So I think that UTSA would be a good fit. I was thinking initially Memphis, Tulane, and UTSA would all be great additions to the Pac-12. So the fifth reason that Texas State is a good add is about who they may draw in with them. If they pull in a team like UTSA, I think that it would also add to that.
Good job. 5 is difficult for people. They normally are used to 3. Give me good 3 reasons. That's a cop-out to me. I think anybody can come up with 3 reasons to do anything. The other 2 usually take a little bit more time. So thanks for doing that. I'm going to be up front. I've been a Texas State fan since the name. Okay, 2 things. If you're new to the channel, you better be subscribing. You're going to piss me off. Follow us both on Twitter. I'm just teasing, of course. The reason it was such a big deal is because I had never heard of them before. I'm perfectly honest. That's not a school that I tracked. In fact, I thought Texas State might be one of those made-up TV schools for movies or something like that. But since I found out, and I think this was last July or August. Since I found that out, I went and did some research. People sent me messages, gave me information, and there's a couple of key points that I'd like to focus on. By the way, I don't know who made this. If you know who made this screenshot or this background, I wanna talk to him. I already reached out on Twitter. Nobody sent me a DM, so I don't know who it is. But let me describe this to you and why I think this is an amazing picture. This covers the entire Pac-12 from east to west. Starting at the top, there are waves up there, guys. Ocean waves. So we're starting at the Pacific coast, moving from the mountains into the prairies, and that runs straight down into Texas. So this picture covers multiple angles, but most importantly, it covers the entire Pac-12, which I think is brilliant. So if anybody knows who created this, please have them send me a DM. I'd love to chat with them. I had a couple of questions about it because I think it's brilliant. Going off of that picture, I think it's really important that people understand Texas want to be up. And the best comparison I can say is Sacramento State, trying to do the exact same thing. Both of these schools have my support. And the reason they do is they're trying. And I can list at least 6 ACC schools aren't really trying. And you all know who they are. They're not going the extra mile with NIL. They're not going to boosters and saying, I know you've given and you've given again, but this is the chance right now. This is the window for us to make a scene. And I think they've basically got a 5-year trial. That's my opinion. 20, 30, 31, I think it's going to be a lot bigger than people think, because I don't think it's tied necessarily to conferences per se. So all that taken together, the fact that Texas State is actually putting out the effort is extremely impressive to me. And so looking at it from that angle, sort of changing the paradigm, not from a peer standpoint. I'm not asking you to compare Texas State and Boise State's football programs. They're not at the same level. And I'm not sure anybody was contending that, but they have 40,000 students going to their campus. That's a huge number, Bronco. It's the largest number in the entire Pac-12. In fact, it's greater than like 3 or 4 of them put together in some regards. So that 40,000 is like an opportunity to me. It's more TV viewers, it's more parents that are going to be involved in these sporting programs. But most importantly, it's going to change the narrative of this school that has been in the shadows, has only been in FBS for 14 years or something. Looking at it that way, does that change your opinion at all?
Well, I'm not going to say it changes my opinion entirely. I think a lot of it depends on what Texas State does, because, like we talked about with the TV market, it's not about the market; it's about what you do with that market.
True.
And my point wasn't that large TV markets aren't a good thing; they help, but the other factors are more important. You look at UCF, right? UCF is in Orlando, and they have a massive student population. I mean, it's
They
huge.
do.
I don't remember the exact number, and if I quote a number, it's probably going to be below. I think
72,000.
yeah, and I was gonna say it's like 60,000 plus. So exactly.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, it's bigger than your mind would automatically even go to. It's huge.
Yes.
But for so many years, they were terrible. They were a garbage program that nobody cared about,
Right.
and nobody watched. And then they joined the American Athletic Conference, and the Big East imploded and everything. Joined the American Athletic Conference, and still were terrible. And then something caught fire, and they became a completely different program.
Yep.
Everything worked because they won. Winning success is the most important factor in any brand, is being able to win. And there's a lot of factors that drive it. Most important of that being culture. Obviously, you need the right investment, you need the right coaches,
Yep.
you be attract the right recruits. But overall, it's the culture of the program. So having a program that wants to be on top, that tells the recruits. When I talk to Boise State football players, when I get guys that are on the team that come on my channel, or even when I talk to incoming recruits, they say the number one thing that the coaches tell them is the expectation here at Boise State is that we are going to win at the highest level.
Yep.
And right now, like, I asked them, like, hey, how did the narrative change with the playoffs? They said the coaches told us our goal is we are getting to the playoffs, and not just like we might get there, but that is what we're going to do. And if we don't do that, we are going to make changes to ensure that we do get there. That is the mindset at Boise State. And so that's the baseline of the culture. So if you have a team like Texas State, and they are getting better, okay, they've been a football program for, what is it, FBS program for like 13 years, something like that.
Yeah.
And the last 2 years have been their best 2 consecutive years, still only 8 wins. They are trending upward.
Yep.
If they can catch fire, if they can instill that culture of saying, this is where we're going to get to, we are going to play at the highest level. I don't think that New Mexico talks like that. Maybe they did when Bronco was there just for like a year, but now he's gone. I don't think they're talking like that.
Yeah.
I don't know if Wyoming necessarily talks like that. Maybe they do, but they don't get there. Texas State, for me, is in a very similar situation to the Wyomings and New Mexicos of the world when it comes to what they've put on the field so far. And I think that without the right culture, they may end up being there. Right now, I see them as a basement dweller in the Pac-12 that is going to struggle most years to get to even to bowl eligibility. But if they can change that culture, if they can win and tap it, I will be honest, I didn't know they had a 40,000 student population.
Yeah.
I knew their football stadium held only 30,000. I didn't know their student population was 40,000.
Yeah.
If they can win and tap into that, then this perspective changes. I just haven't seen any kind of proof that they can do that. And I don't think that taking a team that hasn't won consistently and putting them into a higher level, that doesn't translate into more wins.
Not
That doesn't.
necessarily. Yeah.
You have more competition. It's harder for you to win. You're now
Yep.
competing with more with higher level schools at the recruiting level. Now you're competing with all of those other teams that you are playing on a regular basis, and it doesn't necessarily translate. If you have a winning culture, you'll win anywhere. And Texas State so far does not. But if they can win and capitalize on that, it's the best for the Pac-12. I'm not rooting against Texas State. And I hope that there were still some Texas State fans watching when we got to this point, because I've been very hard on them so far. I am not rooting against Texas State. I don't hate Texas State. I don't care. The truth is, I don't care about Texas State. My wife asked me, hey, what are you talking about today on the video? I said, we're talking about Texas State joining the Pac-12. And she said, who are they? Same thing
Sure.
you said, right? They have been a non-factor in college football. What I want is the best for Boise State, and the best for Boise State is to play the best teams out there. Right now, Texas State is not that. If they could get to that, I would love it. Texas State, I'm rooting for you. I'm just disappointed that you are joining and not Memphis. So
I think that's fair. There's nothing wrong with that. And the people that are still watching that are Texas State fans, and I would say a great majority of them are still sticking around, and because they're willing to engage. They're not going to run from you. They maybe don't have some great history they can tap into at FBS, but I mean, a school that's been around like 100 years or something, it has a fine legacy. The number of graduates is crazy. If you do 40,000, multiply that by however many years, they're going to have more graduates than Boise State's going to have. So it's something that everybody in the mountain, or sorry, that was a Freudian slip. Everyone in the Pac-12 better learn Texas State Bobcats name. That's all I'm saying. I have spent the better part of 6 months doing research on it. I'm not one of these guys that goes and predicts the future or says they're going to get that or they're going to get this. I don't care about any of that. I care about tracking the people and the organization. And that's where I think there's an opportunity here for them to do something. It's going to be a steep climb. I don't think anybody's going to say it's not going to be a hard or difficult climb. But if they can pass the test and get to the top of the Pac-12, the world changes. You already mentioned it, the PR, the way people look at your program. Now all of a sudden Texas State goes from a TV household name to, from a snarky perspective to, oh, look, Texas State Boise or Oregon State, Texas Tech is playing for the championship this year. We're going to watch because, one, they're in Texas, a lot of people, and people are cheering for them. So I think every point you hit on is valid. I just think it's people need to be patient. It's not going to happen overnight. Sergeant Pickles, contributor around here, also a valuable member of the College Football Mafia family, saying, afternoon all, P12 lives on, but the soul is gone. He's a University of Washington fan. So that's what he's referencing there.
Hey, love the Apple Cup. It's one of my favorite rivalry games.
Absolutely true. All right, I'm done with doing shout outs. So I'm going to jump through here on these comments and try to get to as many of the Texas State ones as I can. I'm not going to get to all of them though, everybody. So just, you have to be, one, be patient with me, and two, if you really want your comment to be made out, make it a super chat. All right, I'm going to work backwards. Busa 95. He's been around here. Good to see you, Busa. Just a friendly warning, don't underestimate how Texas State gets transfers from Texas P4 schools to build rosters that can let them hit the ground running in the pack.
I agree that's fair, but my question would be, if that's the case, why hasn't it happened already? The Sun Belt to Pac-12 move is not that significant. It is a step up, but it is, as I said before, there's a lot more parity between those two conferences than a lot of people talk about. It's not that significant of a step up. If they are doing what they've done in the Sun Belt, how is joining the Pac-12 going to be all that much different? It's not like you're talking about an FCS team like Sam Houston, right? Texas guys should be familiar with that. You're not talking about like an FCS team that joins the FBS and now has access to all of these recruits that weren't going to go play in the FCS school. But hey, you're FBS, you're on national television, you have a path to the playoffs. Theoretically, we'll go join you. That's not what's happening here. They're not going to have a Sam Houston level meteoric rise like we've seen out of that program, what we saw last year out of them in Conference USA. It's going to be maybe a slight step up, but not so significant that they're not going to draw the same transfers they've been doing right now. So if they aren't winning already, joining the Pac-12 is not going to solve that problem for them. I guess that would be my question.
I just to follow up on that, here's a question for you, and I can't do a poll. Moen's not here, so I'm sorry I can't do a poll. But if you were maybe considering Reno, or you were maybe considering Logan, or you were maybe considering Fresno, and you have a chance to go not only to Texas, but one of the prettiest parts of the state, has a lot of advantages just built in. Where are you attending school if you want to be in the Pac-12 and you want to be competitive? Yeah, I mean, that's kind of what you're looking at, right? Those are your peers that you're drawn against. So I'm not saying one thing or the other. I'm just saying
Yeah.
the recruiting thing is real in
But
Texas.
I think there's also the problem, right? Because we talk about how this is a good ad for the Pac-12, or the 5 reasons you had me come up with for adding them as
Right.
Pac-12. Um, and again, that was fun because I love thinking from an alternate perspective, and I'm not coming in here saying they are good ads, so that was fun to
Right.
do that
Sure.
mental exercise. But one of the reasons I came up with, right, is the regionality, and I do genuinely believe that is a good reason for adding Texas State versus somebody else. Best of the rest type of situation. But part of that regionality, while it's good for the Pac-12, is not necessarily good for Texas State. They don't have to pay to travel as much, but they're no longer getting to go play on the East Coast in those recruiting
That's
markets.
true.
We talk about larger populations, right? Those are on the
Yeah.
East Coast. So yeah, maybe you'll grab somebody that was in Utah that now didn't want to pay for Utah State, but they'll come pay for Texas State. But now maybe you miss out on the guy that's in Florida or the guy that's in,
Maybe.
Virginia or South Carolina or something like that. So give and take in both of those is what I'm trying to say.
Very fair. I think that's very fair. To Town Hawk, he is a KU Jayhawk. Good to see you, Town Hawk. Thanks for being here today. Texas State and San Marcos is in central location in Texas. They should be able to get tier 2, 3 guys from Houston, Austin, San Antonio. They will have some talent pop out of that pool.
Same answer I gave on the first one. What changes with them joining the Pac-12? Where's that talent popping right now?
I think it's just
They
opportunity, maybe brand.
maybe, maybe,
Yeah. Maybe more money too. We don't know what their
yeah,
NIL bump's gonna be.
yeah.
I think their revenue generation is gonna go up though.
That's fair. Good point.
Yeah. Nothing's gonna happen overnight. Everybody just needs to put that in the back of their head. But Texas State, the first day they're in the conference, is probably not gonna win the football conference that year. Jan Holk, he's one of our international viewers all the way from Slovenia. Good to see you, Jan. It's been a minute. You need to send me a note. Tell me what's up with you. I've missed you. Happy for Boise and all the new Pac teams. Just the Pac-12 in general. Just really short answer. Are you getting a feeling of positivity about the Pac-12 and the schools and people that attend that conference?
Yes, actually. I'm kind of the oddball out in the Pac-12 media sphere, or social media sphere at least. I am kind of the oddball out because it's very much of a heavy, like, back the pack movement. Everybody's excited about this. Boise State fans for so long have wanted to be in the Pac-12, and now
Yep.
we finally are. And I think some of that is overshadowing the objectivity of, okay, what kind of Pac-12 are we joining? So
Right.
yes,
That's fair.
overall,
Yeah.
overall, there is generally a very strong positive pull for joining the Pac-12, and I would say almost too much in the general sphere because it's preventing the fan bases of not just Boise State but all the whole of holding the Pac-12 leadership accountable to making good decisions for the Pac. It's kind of becoming a little bit of a groupthink. It's something very similar we saw when Liberty joined Conference USA.
Yeah.
It's somewhat of a group think of where you just have to support anything that's Pac-12 versus looking at objectively and saying, hey, is this actually a good deal? Is CBS actually the right provider for us? Is going after this team the right move? It's becoming very much of a cheerleader section on social media. Anything Pac-12 is good, and there's the objectivity is kind of going away. So
Yeah.
yes, not necessarily a good thing.
And I think that objectivity will come in time. It's hard when you're right in the middle of it and you're fighting for your lives. You just keyed on it. One of the things I wanted to get to, media partners. Obviously, this is going to be prediction machine. You got a couple minutes here. Who do you think the media partners are going to be to flush out the rest of the Pac-12 broadcasting?
Sure. Obviously, right now, CBS is the base. That was recently announced a few days ago. So CBS is going to be the base. They're going to have 3 guaranteed Pac-12 games on the main CBS network.
Mhm.
No, that won't be announced till later, obviously, but 3 games every season. And then everybody else will be on CBS Sports, with games also streaming on Paramount Plus. So CBS Sports and Paramount Plus. That's what's happening right now. And then in that announcement, it was also said this is our base package, and other partners will be added at a later time. So who are those other partners going to be? Well, I think you can count ESPN out right off the bat, because I don't think if ESPN's not the controlling factor, I don't think they're going to be a partial partner. I don't think that's
Okay.
how they work. So I don't think anybody ESPN. What we may see, what is probably most likely, is something similar to what we saw with the Mountain West. So in the Mountain West, Fox was really the main. Fox and CBS kind of worked together to basically share that conference. So You had a certain amount of games that were on Fox affiliates, Fox, FS1, FS2, and then the other games were all on CBS Sports. And it seems in this case, I think Fox was mainly the driving partner. I may be slightly wrong in that, but at least my perception was that Fox was the main driver
I
in
think
that
that's
package.
true.
And
Yep.
then in this one, it looks like CBS will be the main driver. And I think that since they already have a good working relationship, it probably will be Fox. What I would love to see is TNT. I think
Yes.
that is the best case scenario. I think TNT is very interested in basketball for the Pac-12. Maybe I think football's in their mindset, but obviously they have been such a big player in basketball at the professional level.
Yep.
I think that TNT is still in the mix. Again, I don't have any inside information. I don't have like a cousin that works there or anything like that. So I'm not telling you like this is happening, but just based on what's been said, based on who's expressed interest, what's been reported, I think TNT. And then the other one that I think is probably definitely a potential player in this is CW. Because obviously they're
Oh,
working
right.
with the Pac-12 right now. I think
Yep.
that you could see them in the mix as well to pick up some additional games. Probably won't be the main ones. Will probably be like a Utah State versus Texas State kind of, the games that aren't on the larger scale. Maybe kind of the chitlings that are left over kind of situation.
Right.
But those would be my big ones. Would probably be Fox for sure, and then maybe a sprinkling of TNT and CW.
Everybody should be clear that the 3 is not a maximum. It could
Yes.
extend more. They have an option to add more games on CBS. Something that maybe people aren't putting 2 and 2 together, but it's going to be the CBS bump coming out of the Big Ten. That's why it's only happening 3 times minimum, is because they're going to take Ohio State. Well, let's just be crazy and say it was Michigan in the afternoon window. And after that, it would run right into whatever the premier Pac-12 game could
Boise
be.
State versus Oregon State.
Sure, there you go. And that'll be millions and millions of views just because they stayed on the channel and wanted to keep watching football. That's why CBS is so important. And that's the explanation. I had a lot of people, maybe you're getting these too. Let's just clear this up right now. The main reason the CBS News was such a big deal is because it's a gut shot to the Mountain West. The Mountain West currently has CBS, and CBS isn't going to do both of them. So that essentially just absolutely hamstrung the Mountain West Conference, and the Pac-12 should be celebrating that partnership. All
Yeah,
right.
100% agree.
Morris Simmons, good to see you, Morris. Florida State in the house, another valuable member of the College Football Mafia family. Hello, everyone. Go Noles 2027. He's pushing for 2027 to the Big Ten.
It's good to look at 2027, so you don't have to think about the Noles in 2019. So,
oh, yikes! Ow. Okay, Morris. He said that. I love Florida State.
well, we beat them in 2019. So,
okay, yeah, they're coming off a bad year, so right now anything that isn't positive could affect them. I believe the G6 have 3 wildcard games like the NFL to play into 2 spots in the CFP. Boy, that's dreaming, isn't it?
Yeah, 3 would be awesome. I mean, I guess that would be the one situation where I would be okay with a play-in system for the group of 5 or group of 6. If it was to actually open up more opportunity to the playoffs. Like you have to go a rougher road, but then more group of 5 teams can get in. So you don't have to be perfect basically to get into, like Boise State was besides the Oregon game, to get into the playoffs. I think that would be the one situation where I'd be okay with it.
Okay, very fair. Let's really quick talk about the difference, or maybe even the additions of University of North Texas and UTSA. I'm on record. I did this before when the realignment wave was going to come from the Pac-12. One of the things that I envisioned was the AAC4, and that included UTSA, just in all honesty. So I had UTSA in that list. Now you have a Texas school, regionality, travel partner. If you could only take one, would it be North Texas or UTSA?
That's actually a really tough point because I think one, you have really high potential, and one, you have somewhat recent proven success, but
Right.
unsure of where the future goes from here. UTSA is the team that blew the Conference USA out of the water the last 2 years they were in that conference. I think 2 11-win seasons. And then they went into the AAC and they won 9 games when a lot of people thought they were going to struggle right away. A lot of that was due to a really good quarterback they had, and they lost that in this last year. I think they won 7 games. I'd have to double check my facts on that, but it wasn't a lot. It was like 7 games. So now you ask, okay, is that consistent? A lot of it depends what happens next year. Is UTSA going back to how they were before, where they were non-player, or are they that winning culture? Is that who they are in the program? Whereas North Texas is a team that's done nothing pretty much in their entire history. However, they have recently, the last 3 years, have done a massive expansion of their, not just football, but all their sports programs. They simply got a massive booster flux of money. They redid all their facilities. They fired their head coach. They brought in a new head coach. They are setting this. It didn't really translate in their first year in the AAC, but they are putting it behind themselves a huge push that could see them explode in a similar sense that we saw with SMU, another team that's done nothing ever, and then this year it all paid out in their fruits with what they did in the AAC. So that is a really tough question. Obviously, UTSA has the San Antonio market, which doesn't have any collegiate competition. UNT is a really complex system because they're in Dallas market, which has the big professional side of things to deal with Dallas and SMU, and TCU is a very crowded market, but it's a lot bigger. I would probably say right now, I would probably say in almost a coin flip, UTSA. And really, the only reason I say that, because I think both of them have their positives, is because San Antonio market, I think, is a little bit easier to tap. I lived in San Antonio for about a year, so I know what that place is like. They don't really have another sports presence there that is sucking up all of the fanship. I know they have the Spurs, but I lived in Oklahoma City. I'm a big OKC fan, so feeling good right now. I lived in Oklahoma City for 2 years. That city, everybody wears OKC gear. Everybody talks about it. It's like the whole city dedicated to OKC. When I was in San Antonio, I barely saw any Spurs. I was there during the basketball season. I barely saw any Spurs gear around that town. People weren't talking about it. There were people a lot of people that weren't even fans. They'd moved in. They were kind of looking for a culture to attach themselves to. You don't have another football presence. I think if UTSA can continue on this track of success, they could actually realistically capture the entirety of the UTSA market, whereas North Texas, even if they do really well, are only going to capture a segment of the Dallas market, and there's a lot of other things there that could choke them out.
Real quick, I don't know the answer to this. Do they play in the Alamo Bowl?
I didn't go to game. I don't know how to. I don't want to say something wrong. I think they do as far as like their stadium, but I don't know where they play.
Because that would be a massive thing too. That arena is really, really good for football.
Yeah, it is.
So anyway, yeah, that's great. Really good content. So this is a warning. We've got about 10 minutes, 12 minutes. I told Bronco 40-minute recorded show, and he said, "What are you talking about? I got nothing else to do. My wife and kids aren't in the house. I want to talk some football." So we're going to go about 10 minutes or so. I've already got a bunch of comments marked. So if you want to get your comment in, make it now, and it'll have to be a super chat. Just way it's going to have to be. I've only really got 2 or 3 more questions to ask. So I asked the big one about the media partners for the Pac-12. I asked about your stats. You've given us all kinds of read back on Boise State. We've talked about Texas State. What is the one other issue that is affecting the Pac-12 right now? And I will put it in quotes, that they control the outcome. So that means it's not A5 status, people. It's not getting back to the Power 5 status. What is the one thing that's controllable at the Pac-12 that you think is the main lead?
So I think the biggest issue right now that's dragging down the Pac-12 that is completely within their control is this legal battle with the Mountain West. I think that the decision to go into the legal battle was a bad call in a lot of lights, and I think the Pac-12 needs to finish it off and get out of it as quickly as they can. I think that the decision, I think it's another one of Gould's missteps, going into this legal battle with the Mountain West over contractual agreements that they agreed to. They agreed when the Pac-2 said, "Hey, yes, we will accept the conference realignment deal, not conference realignment, sorry, conference scheduling deal where the Mountain West will play certain teams. We agree to these increased buyouts if we steal your teams." They agreed to that.
Yeah.
And now we're finding out that they only agreed to that because they didn't think that they were actually legally justifiable. And so they agreed to something that they had no intention of backing up. For
Pac-12
me,
so
from a moral standpoint, that is despicable. That is
yeah.
absolutely despicable. And I think that a lot of people see it that way as well, because the Pac 12, they were seen as this conference that had been picked on, this conference that had been dealt a bad hand. Oregon State, Washington State had a lot of sympathy across the national sphere. A
You're right.
lot of
They
people.
did.
So they wanted
Yep.
the Pac 12 to do good. They wanted them to come back. They had a lot, okay, you take from the Mountain West, you pay your rights, you do what you do, but hey, the Pac 12's coming back. We're happy for you. And then they turned around and entered this mass legal battle, actually sued the Mountain West when the Mountain West should be the ones suing them, actually sued the Mountain West. And I think that has created a ton of negative press for the Pac 12. Yes, there's going to be press that's on their side as well, but I think people have changed their perception. The Pac 12 isn't this conference that was victimized. Now they're just another one of those conferences that's going to take advantage of anybody that they can. And I think it's changed the national
Yeah.
perception. And I don't know if they're going to win or not. I think that either way, it's costing them a ton of money to do these legal battles. And the likelihood of them getting everything that they want is very unlikely. They're still going to have to pay something, some kind of settlement. They're still going to have to pay, and it's going to be so costly. The other thing that this legal battle is doing, and human brains, they don't necessarily function on the facts that are presented to them. They function on connections that are made between different facts. So it doesn't matter if those facts actually relate. It matters whether or not those facts have been related to each other. And the brain will
Right.
say those facts that makes that fact truth. And right now, the Pac-12 and Mountain West are being linked together over and over and over and over and over again with these legal battles. And everything that's being reported about the media well is Pac-12 versus Mountain West, Pac-12 versus Mountain West, Pac-12 versus Mountain West. And in the human brains across every party in the country, they are associating Pac-12 with Mountain West. So the last thing that the Pac-12 should want right now is to be associated with the Mountain West. They're better. They took their best teams. They stripped that conference. They should be established themselves as their separate entity. The Pac-12, the top group of 6 conference, the best that's out there. They have nothing to do with them. But all anybody can see is Pac-12 Mountain West. Now you have all these jokes about, Mountain West Light, or they're just the Mountain West in a different form. All of that. And a big part of that, and some of it may have come out anyway, but a big part of that I think about is because of the human brain connections where due to these legal battles, they're mired together and they have just been connected over and over again. Pac-12 Mountain West, people just associate Pac-12 Mountain West. So that is the biggest thing they control right now. Get out of the legal battles, do whatever you need to do, get that section done, and be able to focus on the future of making this conference great, separate from the Mountain West.
Everybody get up, stand up, and give Bronco a standing cheer. That was fantastic. You've had just so many great answers today. I'm so glad we did this. We're going to have to do this more, okay? So you and I are going to have to start doing some cross stuff, because I really care about how the Pac-12 is. And now you feel a little more empowered, I bet. You've been doing it a long time. You got a bunch of followers, and now the conversation can be bigger. And I love that so much. Deshaun Brown, good to have you here, Deshaun. Says UTSA's home is the Alamo Dome. He's not the only one that said that, by the way. But thank you for correcting me. I thought that was right. Well, not correcting me, agreeing with me. I thought that was right. I just wanted to make sure. Okay, I'm going to go with one more question, and then I'm going to leave window if anybody wants to do a super chat. But this is the last question. Let's sort of wrap this up in a bow. So now you've talked about everything. You've talked about the legal fights. You've talked about Texas State specifically, and then the conference, and Boise State, and all these other things. But the one thing you said over and over again, which is interesting because it would be the highlight that I would say I would like to focus on, is the public perception battle. What you just said there, you could not be more right. And I'm saying that from a personal level. I'm experiencing some of that. And people are idiots, Bronco. They are absolute idiots, and maybe it is their brain thing. I've never heard that before, but they conflate these ideas because they all show up on your Twitter feed. You see one feed and then the next one, and they maybe have one reference between them. Next thing you know, those two things are connected. So the PR thing, from a 50 million mile view, when you're looking down at the Pac-12 and this PR battle that they've been in since they screwed up their last media package and lost all the schools to everywhere. What can the Pac-12 do to change? And it is narrative. How do you change the story? How do you get people from reacting defensively when anything is posted about the Pac-12 to only talking about how strong the Pac-12 is? And I say that from, again, personal experience. So many people on my timeline, all they can do is react to comments. Like it's like a trigger. There's nothing they can do to control it. It just, bad thing. I gotta try to shoot that down, flip it around, and no longer do you even reference. So you go from small town to big city. How does the Pac-12 do it? You're now in charge of the PR campaign.
I think the American Athletic Conference set the blueprint. You do what they did. Again, they set themselves up, and the Pac-12 has started to do this, and I like that. The AAC set themselves up and saying, okay, we're not just going to be a great conference. We are P6, and that was their slogan. They had it on all of their stuff. They had it, we are P6. UCF claimed their fake national championship, and they promoted that. And that is the American Athletic Conference promoted their teams like no other conference I've seen before. Even at the Power 4 level, Power 5 at that time level, the American Athletic Conference promoted their teams. Anytime there's any success, any positivity, that was everywhere. You saw they rode UCF's national championship, fake national championship. Their undefeated season, they rode that hard. And then Houston had a great year, and they rode that. And then Memphis, and then Cincinnati. And it wasn't like all these teams were having great years at a time. It was actually just basic. Most of the time, it was like one team was taking over from the other, and the conference was just as strong or not so strong as it had been before. But they combined all of it together, and they kept themselves in the public eye. The Mountain West, Craig Thompson, he was not as bad as Golden. He wasn't evil.
He was pretty bad.
Like he was terrible. Like he was a potted plant. He did nothing to promote this conference. Boise State has been in the Mountain West since 2011, and they have had no public hype or anything. Gloria Navarez is an incredible conference commissioner. She's one of the conferences I admire most in college football right now. It's a shame that what's happened to her conference. I think it's a big reason they didn't want to do a reverse merger because Gold knew she'd be out and Navarez be instead of her. Yep. She has actually started to do that while Boise State was in this last year or two that she's been the conference commissioner. That is what the Pac-12 has to do. And you started to see that. You started to see them posting these graphs showing their successes, where they rank among the conferences, calling themselves P5. I like that. They need to keep doing that. They need to do more of that. They need to get all of this, all the weight that's dragging them back, all of the negativity, the missed opportunities. It's gone too bad. There were other ways you could have done it, but you've missed those chances. Focus on the teams you have right now and promote the heck out of them and show America that this is a P5 in the sense that they are the best of the rest leftover conference. That is what you've got to do. So that's what I would do.
Again, he is Bronco Bleymaier. He runs the Bronco Bleymaier. He's got both a Twitter presence and he's on YouTube. Let me get rid of this really quick. I'm just going to say this. If you're watching on Twitter, do me a favor. I've got 150 people that are watching on Twitter right now. Jump over, go to College Football Mafia on YouTube and hit subscribe. Do me a favor. And for those people that are watching that aren't already subscribed, hit the subscribe button. Leave us a comment or question. Give us a thumbs up. Let us know how we're doing. We do respond to those comments and questions, and just get involved. We love having you around here. We have all kinds of shows, all kinds of stuff, but easy way to do it, just subscribe and you'll get those notifications. Okay, let me bring this comment off so you can tell everybody, not only I asked you at the beginning kind of what you do and what your channel's about. Why don't you really give everybody a detail so they can take all this experience you've given us today and you can turn around and they can actually begin be engaged with your content.
Yeah, so like I said at the beginning, obviously Boise State, that's everywhere. Big Boise State presence on the channel, but I also love anything that's got to do with college football as a whole, specifically when it comes to conference realignment. I'm not going to be one of those channels that posts a conference realignment video every day, every week, maybe not even every month. I wait until something is actually that we actually have information and facts to build a perspective on, and then I make the video on that. So anytime you see any kind of conference realignment video on my channel, it is going to be because either something is about to happen, has happened, or there is enough information out there to make an actual analytical based decision. So if you're interested in any of that, please follow the channel. Like I said just now, my main focus with any of the content I create, I know that I'm a biased human being. I know that I'm flawed. I know that I don't see the future perfectly, and I have opinions that I conflate into facts. I know all of those things. So to try and counter that, every single thing I say, I try to link to a fact. And if I'm going off into opinion, I try to let you know that. And the main thing I need the most out of all of you when you watch this video or any of my videos that I'm in or on my channel, what I need out of you is I need you to counter me. When I say something that doesn't sound right, when I say something that's not fact-based, I want to get the alternative perspective. I want to always make sure that I'm looking at this from every angle, and I only get to do that if you guys follow me, if you guys subscribe to my channel and give me that feedback. The more comments I get, the better I become as a YouTuber and as a person. So thanks so much for watching. If you're interested in Boise State football, interested in conference realignment, interested in Pac-12, Mountain West still for another year at least, West Coast, any of that, please subscribe to my channel. And again, make sure you subscribe and follow the Big 12 Mafia. Great content. Love my time on here. Thanks for having me on.
You're very welcome, and I wish you nothing but luck. And let's keep our fingers crossed. Maybe you do pick up a 9 or a 10. I think nine conference games a year needs to be a goal. So how you get there, football only members, I don't know what it is, but that's what they need to shoot for, in my opinion.
Absolutely.
All right. Have a great weekend.
Thank you. Thanks so much for having me on. Thanks everybody for your comments. Thanks for sticking away all the way to the end. Make sure you like, subscribe to Big 12 Mafia's channel. And as always, on any video I'm on, go Big Blue.
There we go. I appreciate it. Thank you so much, Bronco. We will see you soon. I'm going to cut you loose. I'm just going to close up a couple of things. Have a great weekend and enjoy the time with your family.
Thank you. Have a good one.
Okay, we'll see you later. All right, bye-bye. Bronco Bleymaier, everybody. One of the best to do it. Somebody that knows what the hell they're doing. Everything that everybody watching this show right now should go over and subscribe and follow him on Twitter. The reason is because everything he said about how he handles the news is exactly what we do around here. It's like he should be running a Mafia channel for me. Everything he said there is exactly 100% accurate. We do go off on editorializing. We do opinion, but everybody knows that's watching us. And if you're new to the channel, make sure you subscribe here, follow us. We do the same thing. I am always aspiring to not be the guy who breaks the news. I usually let news marinate a little bit, and then I try to come in and provide some nuanced content around that. And I know Bronco does that on his site. So it was a great way to describe it. And he did a great job today. I really appreciate him coming on. Well, I'll try to get him on more because you can see how entertaining and smart he is. Everybody else, I want you to have a good weekend. I appreciate you being here. A lot of people watching tonight on X and on YouTube. Turn those into subscriptions. Just as a notification, we just passed 4,700 subs on YouTube. We wanted to get to 5,000 by the end of the summer. We're on track. I have a bunch of new Texas State followers. I know we're watching on YouTube, on Twitter right now. Please go over and subscribe on YouTube to Bronco on our site. I would really appreciate that. Help us keep going. And then the other thing, I invite you to get involved. Send me DMs. Send Bronco DMs. If you have questions, if you have comments, and you want feedback, you want to engage without being a jackass, that's what we do. And we try not to reply jackass back to you. It usually goes with how you treat other people is usually what you get back. So everybody have a great weekend. Stay out of trouble. I believe Moen tomorrow night, 8 p.m. Eastern. He will have another Moen After Dark show with Rock and Rant. I don't know what they're talking about this week, but it sure is fun. And I encourage you to do that. And then next week, I'm going to try to do another, either not a consigliaries because it's the holiday, but I'll come up with some other content, maybe member content. So that's the other thing I haven't talked about. It. Please become a member of the channel. Hit that join button right on the main page on YouTube and join us and read and go to all of our member content. We have over 100 videos now, and the member content, some of the best you'll find on YouTube. So everybody have a great weekend. Stay out of trouble. I'm going to try to do the same, and I appreciate you. Thanks to all the new people, all the Pac-12, Mountain West, certainly Texas State fans. I'm in your corner, brother. I'm here for you. If you're a Sacramento State fan, I'm also in your corner. All right, everybody have a great weekend. We will stay out of trouble here, and I will see you next week.